Hello everyone, we're trying to educate everybody on, well, what we know anyway. And are you there, Jordan?
Yeah.
Jordan, are you, you're working on this. What was the last thing you worked on? This thing?
Um,
The pointers?
the pointers, yeah.
The pointers. Alright, so the pointers, he's working on these, Dave. You see these pointers on here? You've got a nice pointer system here. It's right dead center to the magnet, and they're really strong non-magnetic steel, and they scratch the surface. You can hear them. You can hear them scratch. If you listen real close, we get it so close that it scratches the paint a little bit, or the coating on there. So we've got a indicator. Jordan's working on an indicator. Anyways, our latest thought is that we had this scooter motor. This is what we plan to use, right? The scooter motor. And it takes 50 watts or whatever it takes to power this up. And we put this to that, like that, and we got our drive. But what we found out was we don't need all that power. These scooters motors are probably too strong for the job we're doing, but we still got it on reserve. We got some of these, and we might not use this. Now, the reason why I would like to talk about something else is because Jordan and I want to use a more state-of-the-art motor that's not 2800 or less. We're going to be at 2000 with this one. No, 1800. What is it? 1750 with this one. That's plenty for our coil. So what we did was we took a wash machine motor. And by the way, this is a dimmer switch right here, and you'll see I've got some wires here, and I'm gonna have to get it closer for you to see what's going on there. Now at the same time, I'm showing Jordan how to hook stuff up. This is part of his class. You see this box here? If I pulled the cover, it's just a power supply, but I put a dimmer switch in there with a knob on it. You can buy, the biggest one is 8,000 watts or 10, and they're just a few bucks. And I put it in there for power tools and stuff, like I can run my whatever. And it's right, I can run all my AC grinders and slow them down a little, right? Now here's my motor. This motor is out of a late model Whirlpool. I want that. So this is a little nylon pulley, and it just pushes on and off. We'll pull that off with the puller. And I believe that's 1/2 inch. So we'll get a coupler 1/2 inch to 10 millimeter. See, that's a 10 millimeter shaft there. So we'll get a coupler of some form and make the transition. Now the thing, here's what I like, and here's what you need when you're doing experiments, Jordan. You need to tailor and tune. You need to tailor your drive motor to how much power you're going to be making. Go grab that coil over there. Now we don't have but 50 strands for that coil. So here's what I'm showing you. Now this was the original cap that goes to this, and also I'm going to take a paper and pencil and show you guys, Jordan too, how this is wired up. So are you bringing that? And bring me a piece of paper too, because I'm going to show them how this motor right here is wired up. That's all right, bring it here. Don't worry about it. Just, no, unhook it. Mess what up?
Oh,
You didn't mess nothing up. What was on there?
oh.
You mean the board? Where's the board? I put it away, didn't I? Okay, we're working on so many things, guys. This one, we're working on this coil. Now this coil is a C-core, and we still are soldering the ends. He's worried about these ends. They're fine. And we got a lot of work to do with them. We got to solder the little lug nut things that we bought that go on there. But the point here that I want to show you is that this is just one little 3/8 of an inch core right there, or maybe a little more. It's more like a half or so. And this goes up in here in that wheel area. It goes between the magnets there, like that. So we may not have a need for a huge drive. This thing spins. It's real small. It's just got a few magnets on it, and it's very true. And we just don't need much to drive it. All right. So to put a big scooter motor on there that you could use to power, 2,000 watts is not necessary for our tests. You'll notice that I can put this to that, and let's see, the cogging is just not that strong. So I might not get that much either out of it. But we got this coil and this wheel right here. Now, the thing I want to point out, give me a piece of paper over there on blank on one side. I'm going to write down this motor right here for you. Just the back of any of those. I'm going to show you a motor that is capacitor run. So in single phase motors, we have a winding that comes from the source like this, and then you have your two wires, and then they go to your coil like this. There's your coil, and it goes back to power, and that's a motor, like a fan motor or something for your refrigerator or any of your fan motors in your home. Now, if you want it a little stronger, you can got another winding here. It's a start winding. Sometimes there's a start winding, and you jump a little power off of one of the legs. Would be, in this case, it would be, you'd have to jump a little power across here to get it started. But a run motor with the two winding single phase, you put a cap across there always. You don't never take it out. So remember, motors can be either, the cap can be in there always, or just for while it's starting. In our case, it's capacitor run. So we just have an oil-filled cap like this right here, and it's always in the 3-wire mix, and there's 3 wires right there. You see the green wire on there? That don't count, that's ground. But you'll see a yellow and a red and a white wire, and they're hooked to these wire nuts to this plug. Now all this is a dimmer, so I can turn it down a little. I don't know if you had time to think about this before or not, but, and if I went too fast, but you have an AC source, and you have the wires coming out at the end, like right there and right there. You have tie points. That was my meter. You have tie points, and like this is a tie point there, and there, and there. And so when the wires come out of the motor, you can hook them to the capacitor or to power. That's how it's arranged. And that's single phase. And you can't hook a VFD up to it too easy. You get a different angle than a three-phase. Three-phase vectors are different than single-phase vectors. It still works, but it sounds bad. But that's another subject. Okay, so here's our motor. Here's what I wanted you to see. Now, the original capacitor was a 50. Can you see that? This was designed for full load 3 amps, if you're going to use that one. And instead, in order to run it a little lower, you put a little less. I put a 23. This is a 23. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. This is out of a dishwasher, so it's much less. And we don't want to run this. We don't want. Now this will turn at 1750. No matter what you do to it, they will always turn at 1750 because that's what they are. They're a 1750 4-pole motor. And there's no load on it, so with zero load, any power you put to it, just about, it's gonna run at 1750. That's why you have a variable frequency drive being sought after, because a dimmer lowering the volts does not lower the RPM, and that's what you're gonna see here. You're gonna see this right here. I'm gonna plug this in with one hand to this plug right here. Excuse me. Alright, you'll see the green light, maybe. See the green light on there? Yeah. It's breakered. And it's a 40 amp. It's a 40 amp SCR circuit in there. A big, powerful one with a heat sink. And I chose to put it in a box because power supply box, because there's a fan in there, and I power that 12-volt fan with 5 volts from a tiny little wall adapter, USB wall adapter type, and in case any build up when I'm running my big power tools. But anyways, what we're going to be concerned with is the volts coming out here to run that motor. What is the very lowest? Jordan and I have looked at this yesterday, and we're going to do it one more time for you. Alright, and also it's a good refresher for you, Jordan. So see the wires, Jordan? You remember how this hooks? You got a yellow and a white and a red, and there's the two yellow or white ones right there. Goes to one side of the power cord. The other side of the power cord goes to this red wire nut with the red wires coming out of it, and that goes one to the cap and one to the motor. And so your extra wire is yellow, and that hooks to the other side of the cap, which is a black wire in this case. Doesn't have to be black. Okay, so now I got my wire nuts, and I got my cord. You see my meter there? I got my meter. So let's just put this cap and this meter up together so we can read this. All right. Whoops! I just not her. Hold this, will you? I just knocked out my my gator. Hold that right here on the gator. I mean on my. I gotta get this back on. Okay. Now watch. Watch the voltage and watch the motor. Okay, there's 20 volts. Now put it up to that motor and let them hear the clicking. Hear that clicking? Oh, it'll go away, watch. I put it under load. In other words, there's not enough power to keep it from stopping and starting. There's no torque on it. Now there's a little pressure on it. And look what happens when I put a little pressure on the volts. Put a little pressure on there, the volts go up to 30. Now, question is, what about my amps? Now here's my amps. Maybe I can sneak this in here without knocking off the Now what have we got there, Jordan? Can you read that? Can you see it? 0.3. Alright. So now keep it on there while I'm loading. I'm gonna load it down. See it go quickly up to 1/2 amp, and I'm putting more pressure on it than the magnet wheel is gonna put. I'm burning my fingers. Okay, now look back here at this. 22 volts until I load it. They're burning my fingers again. So 30, we'll say 35 volts at 0.5 amps. What's that? So that's like 18 watts. If you do the calculations, you'll see that this is way more sensitive to a small load, and I can get out for a lot cheaper in my driving of that wheel right there, because I don't need much, and that's the goal. And then I have 50 strands, so I can keep putting strands on there and magnets on this wheel until I get 20 if I want, and continue to lower the RPM. This is, like I say, 1750. You don't really need it. It's running. Hear it? It's running at more power there, but the RPM is the same. You'll hear it hum. Hear it hum? I got it cranked way up to 1 amp, which I don't need. It's meant for pulling a heavy load. It can handle it, but that's not what we need. We need to dial down a little, and here we got it down to 16 volts and 0.25 amps. That's just coasting along there. If I put a little bit of pressure on it, it goes up to 18 and 0.3. So you see, I don't need much. Maybe that's all I need. I'm putting a lot of pressure on it right now, so it might be all I need to drive this little tiny wheel here. Also, another thing I thought of was take another little SCR, take some of the power off of here. I can easily generate 25-30 volts with this, but I can't power it directly off the coil into this motor here with any adjustments. So I could get another small one of these. You can buy these little 1 inch by 1 inch SCRs that are 0 to 100 volts, and you can adjust it to suit. So I could take a set of windings from here, put it to the SCR, this would produce 100 volts most probably. If not, I'll have to think of other ways to transform. But anyways, it's AC. This is AC and this is AC. So you see the beauty of looping. Okay, that's it, guys. Just thought you might like to see